That the importance of social media cannot be overemphasized. Now, while the social media enhances information flow, it brings issues to limelight for public discourse, it also has its bad and ugly side from what everybody is saying. Now, social media fuels fake news and can play a big role in inciting violence as seen in many cases. In Africa, Uganda recently banned the use of social media during its 2021 election. Although restored, Uganda's decision came as several governments around the world turned their attention to curtailing the power and influence of privately owned social media platforms. Back home in Nigeria, recent frenzy around paternity talks and DNA tests, the health status of a close relation of a relative of the president, Mama Daura, who, according to social reports, was hurriedly flown abroad to receive medical attention. Now, a report that was later refuted and described as untrue, saying he's hale and hearty. These two examples are just a few of many other ways the social media has influenced social discourse through false or true stories. Now, we have joining me in the studio now is Dikbo Yewale, strategy consultant and public affairs analyst. It's nice to have you join me, Dikbo. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Great. Now, I know that in 2020 was the year of COVID-19.
Yes.
And besides that, a lot of things also happened. Social media was influenced a lot of things. Some went in certain direction, the good, the bad, the ugly. However, sometimes the one that has most impact is the one people talk about. Either some people who have blown, like we used to use it. They were nothing before, and from what they were doing, putting on social media, they became really huge and big. And then others, scandals and all of that. But talk to us basically. Social media, like we've said, has come to stay.
Yes.
But the use of social media, have we really mastered the use of it to reap the benefit of it?
The mastery of it is something that I'm not sure we'll ever get to have. This is why I say that. Of course, people will always have to use it as a tool independently, depending on whatever motives they have, some for good reasons, some for nefarious reasons. But yes, it is something that we get to see in a society where it is a tool for disseminating information. Like you said, in the year 2020, the year of COVID, yes, so a lot of people were using it to disseminate legitimate information, saying that, okay, you know what, in certain areas, these are the numbers. I mean, in different parts of the world, that's what people were doing, saying that, okay, you know what, when you get to certain places, you need to be cautious because there are high rates of COVID cases and all of that. And today, interestingly, I was talking about social media. You'll see that a lot of governments around the world, including our own government, have been able to utilize social media as a tool to communicate with the people. Gone are the days when everything they had to say had to go through print newspaper.
Exactly.
Or had to go through televised news. Yeah, so today social media, like you said, it has come to stay. But are people using it responsibly? Not everyone is using it responsibly. A lot of people are using it, like I said, for nefarious reasons. But we need to be cautious and educate people a lot more on the dangers of having to use it for what isn't the truth, because it is a lot more damaging. Today we have deep fake videos. Yes. So you have deep fake videos, and especially somebody like you and I, that we're on air a lot. I mean, just pick up our faces, you can get our gestures, can put some text together, put some audio to it, and then they get to show you, Mike, is this you?
Is
and they say yes.
Be like...
They said, no, they first ask you that, is this you? And then you have to say yes, because it is.
Exactly.
It does look like you. And then they said, okay, did you say this? And then you say, no, I don't remember saying that. So those are part of the dangers of it. But yes, we always advocate that people use social media as a tool to use it responsibly. Recently, one of the comedians on social media, she got an allegation levied against her by someone else on Twitter. And he wrote, I mean, with a lot of details and facts. And a lot of people were asking, okay, from this person that we get to see her skits, is it true, is it not true? And then a couple of days later, she responded with her lawyers. And the gentleman that wrote the tweet and levied the allegations against her had to retract the statement and saying that everything was all false, was all fabricated. And we're wondering, how is that even possible?
Exactly.
You wrote figures, you wrote all sorts of things, and it was fabricated for what purpose?
Yeah.
So yes, there should be consequences for people.
One
like
other
that.
issue sometime last year that got people talking was a relative of the president, elder statesman Mama Ndaura, where it was on social media that he fell sick and was flown abroad, and then there were stories here and there. Social media was awash with it and all of that. But what really fuels issues like that?
Well, everybody knows that controversy sells, even before the era of social media. That's why we have a lot of magazines out there, or had a lot of magazines out there back in the day, where the juicy scandals, the juicy scandals were always found on there, and they always sold every other time that they were printed. So yes, controversy sells, either we like it or not, even in people's private lives. Sometimes people just come up with controversial stories, even things that are very far from the truth, on their personal lives, post it on social media to get some traffic, to get some clicks, to get some likes, to get some retweets, to get some conversation going around them. And then sometime later they come to that, oh, sorry, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, and all of that. So yes, we get to see a lot of that. So yes, for someone that's as high profile as the individual you mentioned.
Yeah, Mama Ndaura.
Mama Ndaura. So yes, I mean, a lot of people will stand to gain from whatever news you put out there. But interestingly, that now that you mentioned his story, I remember vividly that last year there were different versions of it, where some people said, okay, he was in Nigeria, and then some individuals took pictures with him and said they were in London with him. And then we're asking, okay, so where is this man exactly? Where is he exactly? So for me, honestly speaking, like I've told a lot of people, it was a non-issue because, I mean, he is not an elected official. So, I mean, he's a private citizen. His health should really be our concern. I mean, I don't see how it adds any value to us.
Because he's a relative of the president. So,
yes.
But like you said, sometimes people, because when people are high profile, you leverage on their popularity for different things and all of that. You also recall the story a few weeks ago on the DNA of an MD of a bank, all those issues around things like that. And that also went viral on social media.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere because so that ignited very quickly, because up until then there had been weeks on social media where there had been a lot of conversation around paternity fraud, and a lot of people were coming up with their experiences, the children, the husbands and the people who thought they were fathers of the children. So everywhere was already juiced up for that kind of conversation. So when it came and hit the ground running, I mean, it had to explode. So yes.
And then it looked like it was the confirmation of all of that. And then we started seeing statistics of that out of every 10 children, as the case may be, about one, it doesn't belong to, doesn't have the paternity and all that, stuff like that. It's really
a lot of it. So, yes, I mean, like we said, social media has its own negative sides. But interestingly, for a lot of people, that kind of conversation tends to be an eye-opener for people. Because,
now, talking about fake news generally, because this borders around the issue of fake news. Things are out there, but they're not real, they're not factual. How dangerous would you say fake news is to the society, if we have to put it really that plain and that simple?
Very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. I would say it's a lot more dangerous than a pistol, because so fake news, you put out fake news and then you have no idea where it's going to get to. Okay, it will not end on Twitter. It will end up on WhatsApp groups, it will end up WhatsApp statuses, it will end up on Facebook, it will end up on different platforms, and then you start to hear different versions of it, where people get to edit it out and then tweak it a little bit, and then somebody takes the tweaked version and tweak it a little bit, and then before you know it, the entire conversation that was already fake or that was already false has turned to something else. So it could incite a lot of things. I mean, it is quite disastrous, as we know. So fake news is very, very dangerous.
Now, there's a talk about the issue of regulation of social media, and in fact, in the United States, where social media emanates from, and all of these technology and all of that, they've not been able to put their hands totally on how this regulation is going to go on. The heads of some of these platforms have been invited at different times to Congress to engage.
Yes.
But there hasn't been an agreement as to how to, because there's this balance between people expressing themselves, the freedom to express yourself, and also gagging, because it's media. So if you say we shouldn't go say this and that, it amounts to gagging the media.
Yes.
So how challenging is that when it comes to regulating social media?
It is a dance that I would say has all this time, because social media does all this time. But yes, it is a dance that has been on for some time. And in recent time, where there's a lot of fake news around, that conversation keeps coming up every other time in different parts of the world. But like you rightly said, so there has to be a balance between violating people's civic liberties, their freedom of speech, being able to have the right to speak, to express themselves, which is the basic fundamental human right. Okay. Then there's the other part of looking at it that, okay, it's part of the media. If you gag it, if you stifle it, that would also be illegal.
Yeah.
But I believe that what we should also get to do, like I said, is advocate for a lot more responsible use of social media. I mean, definitely there are people who will stand to gain from the nefarious use of social media. But if we don't see how we can get to have certain consequences or get to regulate it in a way, it may get out of hand. But regulating it, I don't see how that's going to happen as of now. That is a framework that a lot of governments of the world are trying to see how they can put in place. Some of them have gotten fines in time past, but it is dealer's choice, like they say. But I guess we'll still see how it goes. But there has to be responsible use of social media. We cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah. Now, one other thing is the role social media plays in elections across the world right now. We saw how in 2015 in Nigeria, for instance, social media was highly instrumental to people's participation and people's involvement and enlightenment and the readiness to be a part of the system. We saw recently also in Uganda where social media was, partially banned in some places. There were interferences here and there, and we saw the outcome of it. Bobby Wine, who was challenging President Museveni at the elections, cried out a lot, so many times as to how he's not allowed, his followers are not allowed to express themselves. When it comes to that, we've seen it also in Zimbabwe at a time when Robert Mugabe was there, in several other countries. But how important is social media now in the election process?
I would say it is quite important. I mean, with the recent case in Uganda that you mentioned, everyone around the world agrees that Museveni's step to ban social media was just very erroneous. And I mean, it gave a lot more legitimacy to Bobby Wine's plight and the plight of a lot of Ugandans. I see no reason why he should have gone ahead to do that except he had something to hide. Okay, whatever reason he had come up with, it wasn't valid enough because you stifled people from being able to express themselves. And I followed Bobby Wine's Twitter account throughout the election period and even afterwards, where he said that they were still detained, they were under house arrest, the US ambassador was turned away from seeing them, and all of that. Without social media, we would not have known any of that. The entire country would have been somewhat in darkness. So yes, those are the positive uses of social media. Also getting to have people informed as to what is going on in a lot of places where certain fraudulent activities, if I may say that, is happening and people need to know about it. So yes, those are part of the positive uses of social media. But yes, a government saying that they want to ban social media in time of elections, it's a very wrong step.
It seems the world has moved from that era where you wouldn't allow people to express themselves because a lot of people who don't have the wherewithal to place all the adverts, political adverts on conventional media. Social media is where they go for free and they're out there.
They put it out there. If you want to promote it, you promote it.
Exactly.
If you want to use an influencer, if you want to leave it on share log, I mean, just put it out there and then hope that you get enough clicks depending on how you put it, depending on what your design is like, depending on what your content is like, and all of that. So yes, elections, social media, today they have come to stay and they go hand in hand.
Now, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, at the time last year, in fact, the last few years, he's been coming up with the issue of we need to do something about social media, and the agenda is fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and the issue of hate speech, in fact. But one way or the other, there hasn't been an agreement as to how that is, especially what the people suspect that there could be an agenda behind it.
Yes.
So talk to us from there.
So yes, there is a huge suspicion, and I mean, you won't blame people for being suspicious of their own government, not just Nigerian government, even the U.S. government, anywhere in the world. So yes, there is the fear that when the government then gets to decide what fake news is or what hate speech is, and then they tell you that speaking against the president or speaking against any elected official or appointed official is hate speech, where is the balance with that? We also have to remember that a couple of weeks ago, during the time when the young boys from Kankara were abducted, a certain government official came out and said, okay, these were the figures, and he was speaking authoritatively.
Exactly.
And then he was later disputed that wasn't it. That wasn't it. And then he came out to apologize. So where do we then find the balance with that, when even a government official could create that kind of blunder to maybe also let us see things from a different perspective as opposed to the way they were before?
Especially so, when there is the understanding that government and government officials have access to the most accurate and most informed and most current information than anyone else.
So you would have to take whatever they say as the gospel. So saying that the figures were totally way off from what they were in reality got people in a bit of a frenzy, saying that, I mean, how could you have made such a blunder? Or were you trying to push an agenda? Like we said, agendas. So there would always be agendas somewhere.
All right, let's talk about the issue of media literacy now, because it is the understanding of the individual of how these things work that makes people to make verifications before they push whatever they push, because anything you send out there has a potential to go viral, to either impact somebody, inspire someone, or to destroy something, or defame, whatever it is, as the case may be. Now, how do we begin to build that literacy level where we've seen where people who are even professors sometimes forward messages that are not true.
Forwarded as received.
Forwarded as received.
As received.
Very good. You know what that?
Forwarded as received.
Exactly.
Copied as received.
And we're saying, no, take responsibility. Whatever you're forwarding, go through it, take responsibility, see it, whether it is beneficial, and you have to ask yourself some questions as to, is this beneficial? Is it correct? Is it factual? And all of those. How do we begin to build that level of literacy?
Okay, so personally, when I see a long message, especially on WhatsApp, that starts with forwarded as received or copied as received, I can tell you personally, 9 out of 10 times I don't open it. I just open and close it, because I'm like, what do you mean by forwarded as received? If it's legitimate information, if it's tangible information, it will be out there for everyone to see. You also remember that a couple of years ago, I think maybe 2 years ago, that was why WhatsApp put the thing in place where you don't get to forward to more than 5 people.
Exactly.
To also see how they could stifle fake news, because it was then dubbed as the platform for fake news being spread. Twitter did that some time ago, where you couldn't just retweet without having to read the article, or there was a longer period for you to retweet, and then we complained that, you know what, it was taking too long and all of that. But now they've taken it back to what it was before, but you still get to see, you want to read the article. Now, the tech companies are seeing how they can be responsible about it, but I also think that there has to be a lot more sensitization for individuals as well, saying that we have to be responsible. Now, today, also personally, I have some information that I share on my personal WhatsApp status. Now, it's not the news platform, but some people see it as that, but it's not. It's just sharing information that I have access to with various people. But every other time, or I'll say every time, before I share anything, I make sure that I see it on at least 2-3 verifiable sources, media platforms, saying that, okay, this is legitimate news. There are some things that I still see on 2-3 platforms, and I'm like, do I really want to share this? Or what is the objective of sharing this? Just get conversation going. I mean, I'm doing it for free anyway, so I don't need that kind of attention. So do I really want to share this? Do I really want to retweet this? I really don't have to. So I think that when a lot of us, or all of us, have that kind of consciousness, we would have a lot more responsible use of social media. But until then, we'll get to see a lot of this fake news flying around, and we'll get to see a lot of this damage being done.
Then one other issue, we've seen very young people, creative minds who, one way or the other, originally, who would not have had investment or access to loans and whatever to, help their businesses.
Yes.
But we've seen some, because of their display on social media, some of the things they do, from arts to inventions to different things.
Yes.
We've seen people attract a lot of funds and all of that. Talk to us basically on how people can creatively use, especially when it comes to marketing and sales.
Well, so from the business perspective of it, all social media platforms, maybe not all, but it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah.
They have tools for businesses that you could always use to project your business a lot more, to get a lot more traffic, to get a lot more traction. Now, it's one thing to get traffic on social media, it's a totally different thing to get sales in your... yeah, so I won't get into that because that's a longer conversation.
No, of course.
Yes. So
but just the basics.
But for personal use, I mean, we've seen a lot of people get funds for medical bills. We've seen that a lot.
Oh, yes.
Today we have some young folks on Twitter, medical personnel on Twitter, that are today starting a medical fund for a lot of people. We have people who've gotten prosthetics through social media.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people who have had funds generated to treat cancer, for surgeries, for deliveries. Some, their wives gave birth to children or a child, and then for some reason around that period of time they lost their jobs, and then comes social media, people rally around them. We've seen a lot of that happen over time. So I believe that it is in how you frame your engagement that really matters. I mean, there are certain things that you get to see, and of course a lot of people are still abusing that, which still goes back to the negative part of social media. You see a lot of people that post people's pictures that have no relation to them, and then they say, okay, come and raise money for them. 2 weeks ago, part of one of the WhatsApp groups I'm on, somebody posted a picture of a young child that was erstwhile ill and had been treated. But the person posted it again and said that, okay, you know what, this child needs support and all that. Thankfully, we had one person on that group that said,
who knew the history of that?
I personally know this family. I was part of the people that raised money for this family. The child is a lot better. They have been treated at this hospital. This is fake.
Wow.
So we have to debunk it. And so we also had a sister group for that same group, and then it was a whole back and forth, which is why, I mean, I personally don't like to join WhatsApp groups, because those kind of people, they have access to your contacts and all of that. So yes, but to the good side of it, a lot of people get things done. We have a lot of people who get, like I said, who get the education funded. They want to go abroad for their masters, their PhD. It's like GoFundMe accounts. A lot of people buy into it, and then a lot of people fund it. So yes, it is a very useful tool for development, for progress, and for personal realization of goals.
All right, amazing. The government agencies, on the other hand, most government agencies and departments and ministries now have social media accounts where they use it to engage with people. But whether they are doing it well or not is a totally different thing. When you see a difference between, the followership of government handles or handles of social media handles of government agencies, differently from the privately owned companies. Talk to us from the communication and ability to engage. Why do we have less of that from government agencies?
So I believe that the reason why we have less of it is one, in terms of content. Now, if a particular ministry or a particular government agency or parastatal puts out content, now, not just any kind of content, but relevant information, okay, that people find useful, you will be engaged, either you like it or not. Whatever bias people have against you or not, okay? If you put out useful information that people can have out there. I mean, an organization like the FIRS or LIRS, if you come up with tips on how people can go about having their taxes done and all of that, easily, 1, 2, 3 steps to get your taxes done, and then you get to promote that kind of content every other day, people will engage with you, okay? The government agency that a lot of people have been engaging with is 2020, which, I mean, a lot of people don't have a choice, is NCDC, because, I mean, we need to keep ourselves apprised of the numbers and to know that. Now, that went beyond the numbers, and then they had to engage people on some kind of information as well, saying that, okay, we can do this, you can't do that, this is wrong,
this is what you need to do.
This is what you need to do. So people
and engage. In case you have issues like this, call this number.
So that is useful information. That is the example of a government agency that has gotten their content right. They're putting out relevant content, and people are actively engaging with it. it, no matter if it's government or private.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Thank you so much, Dick Boyewale, for your time on
Thank
the
you for
program.
having me, Mike.
And we wish you well and wish everyone well as we get deeper into 2021.
Thank you.
All right.
You too as well.
Have a great day.